So, Mark, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Bloomberg. I want to start with your talk that you gave just an hour or so ago now. And one of the things that struck me is you said at the top of it, this may be the first auto show in history that's not about cars. Take us inside this mobility revolution. What does it really look like inside there?
Well, obviously, we're looking at trends across the world, David, and we're seeing more congestion. We're seeing more people moving into cities. And as a business, we're taking a point of view of what that world is going to look like in 10 and 15 years. And so that's why we're going through this transformation from being an auto to an auto and mobility company. And I think we're seeing it in many cities, and it's manifested here today in LA with the first kind of auto show that's both an auto and a technology show. And that's why we're here talking about our vision of the future of working with cities and helping them solve some of their transportation problems.
Now, Ford has already made a number of investments in this area. Is this something that Ford can do on its own, or does it need to partner with a technology company, a large technology company?
Well, we've partnered with a number of different companies, and one of the things that I mentioned in my keynote this morning is we work with cities on solving some of their unique mobility issues or transportation challenges. It's going to really reinforce that it's important for us to work with others to solve that. So in some cases, we will partner with companies. In other cases, we will acquire them, like we've done with Chariot, which is a dynamic shuttle service based in San Francisco. And in other cases, we'll grow on our own.
Mark, it's a bit ironic, and you may or may not know about this, but just about the time you were giving your speech, we had Mark Rosekind, who's the head of NHTSA, giving testimony in front of Congress saying it's a very difficult problem, he said, autonomous cars are, and that it's going to be decades before we have a full fleet of autonomous vehicles. To what extent does Washington and regulation play a role in how fast we can get to the real mobility world you envision?
Well, I think it does play a very pivotal role. If you look at autonomous vehicles in particular, some of the challenges in front of us are obviously the technology, and that's coming along. You're looking at things like regulatory, which you mentioned, which we're really encouraged by the approach that the U.S. government and NHTSA has taken, very forward-leaning on looking at putting in policies for the rapid deployment of autonomous vehicles. But we're going to have to continue to work with the regulators on this because we want safe deployment of autonomous vehicles. And our view is we're going to come out with a level 4 autonomous vehicle in 2021, but it will be in a commercial application like a ride-hailing or ride service type of operation in a defined area.
I think you probably got the word out in Dearborn, but there was an election last week, and we have a new president-elect, President-elect Trump. It's not too early for Ford Motor to start thinking about what that means for them. And specifically, I'm now talking in the world of autonomous vehicles. Do you anticipate a shift? Do you think they'll be more welcoming of this new world?
Well, we're hopeful that it will be. I mean, first off, we obviously congratulate President-elect Trump and all the congressional members that were elected. And, you know, as we look at the policies going forward, we have always engaged, going all the way back to the Teddy Roosevelt presidency. We have always and have a proven track record of working with policymakers, and we'll continue to do that, advocating for policies that drive economic growth and help the industry support that economic growth.
The Auto Alliance came out with a request right after the election to the new administration, asking them to review all regulations applying to automobiles at the federal level. Is that something you support, and what would it mean for Ford Motor?
Well, when you look at the policy recommendations that we support, obviously we will continue to advocate for currency manipulation rules for free and fair trade. We'll continue to support comprehensive tax reform. And to your point, we want to make sure that fuel economy regulations are aligned with market realities. And I think we'll engage, as we always have done, in very positive discussions with the administration and policymakers on what that means, not only for our business, but importantly, what does it mean in terms of providing jobs and economic growth here in the United States.
There's a review coming up, I believe, in 2018, actually, those fuel economy standards. If in that world you got to align the fuel standards with the reality in the world, what would they look like? How would it be different from what we have now?
Well, I think when we agreed to the one national standard back in 2011, one of the things we agreed to was a checkpoint in 2018, what they call the midterm review. And listen, as a company, we want to make sure that our vehicles are as easy on the planet as possible. We want to have great fuel economy for our customers. But we also want to make sure that those regulations are aligned with how consumers are reacting to some of the new technologies and the new economic realities. And that's the discussion we want to have, because we want to make sure our vehicles provide great customer satisfaction, but customers can afford it and it can encourage economic growth in the country.
So, Mark, besides your talk this morning about mobility, you also made an announcement out there at the LA Auto Show about the EcoSport, which is a small SUV that you will be importing actually from India, where it's manufactured. Tell us about that vehicle. As I understand it, targeted on millennials.
Well, when you look at the small SUV segment, it's one of the fastest growing segments here in the U.S. It's up almost 50% this year and will continue to grow. And what we're doing is we're bringing in the EcoSport, which we have sold in other parts of the world for a number of years. It's very successful, and we think it's really going to fit a very important niche for folks who want a vehicle to carry either their friends around in or their stuff in, but in a very small footprint. So we're very excited to bring that vehicle into the marketplace, and we presented it yesterday, and it really complements the whole strength we have in our entire SUV lineup.
As I say, it's imported from India, and Ford Motor is a global company. You ship a lot of parts and vehicles across borders. Donald Trump, in running for president, didn't make much of a secret of the fact that he had some questions about trade, and in fact has singled out Ford, as you and I have talked about in the past, for things going on in Mexico. As you look forward to a Trump administration, what do you anticipate, and what changes does it make for Ford Motor Company?
Well, we'll have to see when President-elect Trump gets into office and the policy that he advocates. But listen, we're a global manufacturer with our home in the United States. The majority of our investments in North America are right here in the United States. And just as we're leveraging, our manufacturing footprint in other parts of the world, it goes both ways. I mean, we export our Explorer that's made in Chicago to 100 different cities around the world. So we've always been for free and fair trade so that we compete on a level playing field. And as I said, we'll engage positively with the administration, talk about policies that will help provide growth here in the U.S. and do our part, but at the same time, make sure that as a global, successful multinational company, that we're building where we're selling.
Mark, if President-elect Donald Trump called you up this afternoon and said, Mark, give me your best view about what we should be doing with trade, and particularly as it affects vehicles, what would your advice be to him? What would you like him to do?
Well, the advice, if he phoned me up, was very consistent that we've given over the last couple of years. From a trade standpoint, free and fair trade, and very importantly, with currency manipulation rules. So we let the markets determine currencies and not governments to kind of tip the playing field. We just want a fair playing field, because we know that when we can have a fair playing field and an even playing field, we can compete with anybody out of the United States.